Welcome back to the Fear and Beer podcast,
where we discuss all things Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies, and just a little bit of beer.
So kill the lights, grab a cold one, and join us as we dive into this mad world we love.
I'm Nick.
I'm Seamus.
And I'm Jamie.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Here's Johnny.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You miss me.
Aren't you drinking?
I never drink. Why?
And as a reminder to all listening, if you want to help us to continue growing as a podcast, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on whichever streaming platform you use.
To stay up to date with us and all of our episodes, be sure to follow all of our socials. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Fear and Beer Pod.
Feel free to reach out to us. We love to interact with you all.
What is up, motherfoggers? Today is the day. Today is the Christmas of all of us weird freaks of the night. It is Halloween Horror Nights 33 opening day. And that's right, you're listening to the last episode of our 1 week until HHN Podathon. Thank you so much for playing along with us. Thank you so much for listening to us, introducing us to everybody in your household, in your car, on your jog to work. I don't know, wherever you listen to us, at the gym. I don't know. My mind is mush now. I have no more thoughts in my head of Halloween Horror Nights. So we're going to dive into the last little traces of mind that I can find for this episode. I'm so tired, and I am so glad that we have made it. But today, of course, is the episode you've all been waiting for. This is our hype list for HHN33. We're going to be talking about all 10 houses in all 5 scare zones. And I guess we might as well mention the one show, because it's on the list, right? It has to be. It's one and last, unfortunately. And congratulations. Wanted to shout out and mention, I'm not sure when that episode comes out, but myself and Seamus joined in on the Catacombs of Halloween Horror Nights podcast, the mega hype list, the round table of HHN. We were joined by HHN365, the RIP tour, and Catherwade Coaster, which is now known as it's the Horror Nights Gauntlet. I have to check it up. It's a brand new name, and I'm still trying to learn. So sorry, but I did my best on the fly. But yeah, so if you listen to that episode, that is a huge compilation hype list episode. So it's not fully in our order. So tonight we'll be going into those. So I guess we can save our true thank yous for the end. But obviously we're joined by Jamie and Seamus tonight. Thoughts on this end of this year's 1 week until HHN Podathon?
Well, you having
I'm tired.
Don't believe him when he says that.
I'm tired. No, it's been fun. I think I only missed out on one episode for this HHN Podathon that we did, so I'm doing pretty good in my book. It's very exciting. I can't believe it. It's here.
We're finally in the fog.
We're
almost
finally in the
in the fog.
I don't sound as excited, but I promise I am. When I'm in the vicinity of HHN, I will be giddy and excited.
Maybe you are listening to this in the park. Maybe you are waiting in Stay and Scream while listening to this.
I guess so, but why? Don't do that to yourself.
You guys
just getting
like
ready.
this?
Just getting ready for the last little bit.
Listen to it while you're waiting for a house? Come on now.
Not that. Waiting for the gates to open, waiting for the horror to begin, the lights to dim, and the fog to emerge. So, like every other episode during this Podathon, we're just getting right to it. So, I guess we should start with our one show. Obviously, we're not ranking it, but it's we should mention it, that it is the Nightmare Fuel Nocturnal Circus. So, again, we don't have to rank it, but I'm very intrigued by this one. I'm very glad that from the logo, the description, and the pictures that people have shown of the Fear Factor stage, like you can see some of the decor and stuff like that. We are getting potentially an all new show, at least different enough so far that we can assume it's all new. I don't know to what extent, right? We don't know if there's the magic. I'm sure, we know some of the dancers. We know the Fuel Girls are back. So there's familiar elements in this show. But I'm expecting a very different story. The whole circus theme is far and away from the, Revenge Dream and Nightmare Fuel and all that stuff. So I'm excited. I do love the show. I know it's not for everyone. I know that it is like packing sardines into a hot, sweaty little canister in there in that Fear Factor stage, but I still do enjoy it. I've probably caught it maybe less and less each year. That first year, it was truly just magical, no pun intended, but it was just something new and refreshing. And, they kind of continued along the same trend a little too long, I'd say. I still enjoyed it, but it did get a little bland after 3 years of kind of back to backs. But what do you guys think? Where's your level for the show? Because this is exciting. We've done this whole 1 week till Podathon, and like we haven't really talked. Me and Seamus did our the show, but like me and Seamus did the crossover, so we kind of have an idea of where our hype list is at, but we haven't really discussed the hype list up until this point. So I know we're jumping ahead, but scare zones and houses, I'm curious where everyone's at. But this is fun to see where everyone's like final opinions are before we walk through these things.
Yeah, it's our last chance to speculate a little bit and see where our heads are at before we get there and everything's changed and all the things we thought we knew we don't know, and so vice versa. But as far as the show is concerned, I'm just happy that they're changing it up a little bit. I liked the theme the last couple of seasons, but it was kind of, all right, well, we've seen this before. What are we going to do to change it, or at least give us something a little fresh? And totally fine with them keeping the same theater production, the same, Fuel Girl aspect to it. But, it's nice that they're actually going to take maybe a different take on the story, or do a different story with it, and hopefully change the music up a little bit. Not that I don't like music, but it would be nice to hear maybe a different soundtrack. But
it gets
whatever they do, I'm sure it'll be really fun. So,
yeah. Jamie?
Yeah, I'm definitely more excited, I feel like, than I have been in the recent last 2 years, because like you guys both said, it's been a little bit similar. I think I mentioned it in one of the episodes before. I do hope that the magic is still there, literally, because I do like that aspect. And of course, the Fuel guys and gals and all those fun folks, I do love seeing them. They're just fantastic. They give their all every single night, multiple times a night. And I just can't believe how much fuel they literally have. It's impressive. But I think the nocturnal circus aspect is going to be really cool. Like you'd mentioned, Nick, too, I saw couple kind of like aerial inside little photos from it, and it looks super different than what we've seen the last couple of years. So looking forward to this one. Anything kind of like dark circus themed is always pretty cool in my book. So
yeah, the only downfall I see on this is that it would have been perfect for last year.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the only thing that, and I don't know, that doesn't hurt it in my mind, but it would have lined up like so on point for last year. But yeah, excited. So let's get into our scare zones.
Do you want to?
Oh yeah.
I was just going to ask, did you any thoughts on what the tribute store looks like? Like how you feel about the facade of it since they released those photos not that long? Or not they didn't, but people were sharing photos of it.
Yeah, so we got at time of recording, the storage container is put out front, kind of spray painted up. I'm not sure if it's completely finished yet or not. I think it's still kind of undecided, but I don't mind it. I get the feel they're going for. It's the whole they've come out and said that the theme of the tribute store is like this dystopian style city thing, and that kind of makes sense for the theming.
Escape from New York.
Yeah, it's
type deal.
It's interesting. I'm curious. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it honestly yet. I do think that compared to the last couple of years exterior facades, it's sort of like, as of now, with just the one container out there, it looks a little lackluster, but I think they'll add to it. And, even if that is at the end of the day just what we get, it fits the theme. So like they nailed the theming, and I have no reservations as far as what the inside of the tribute store will look like, because I think it'll just be, I think they'll nail that just like they always do. So that's what I think of the store itself, the facade. But what do you think?
Just from the pictures we've seen, I'm not wild about it, but I'm not prepared to like completely poo-poo it yet. But it feels a little for what they typically do. So I'm hoping that maybe it's not completed yet and the facade will be a little different. I mean, not to say that it's a store at the end of the day, so I get it. Like, it's not like you're expecting a ton, but they usually do pretty good at developing a theme or creating a theme that fits the event. And I don't know, I feel like if it's just going to be this shipping container with the graffiti on it, it's a little lackluster, but that's just as of right now. I mean, that could change, and it probably will change a little bit, but I just hope that it isn't just that. I don't know. It just feels kind of bland for me as of right now.
Yeah.
I agree, Seamus. Unfortunately, I wasn't too wowed by the photos that I've seen so far. I mean, it is kind of cool, but I mean, it's just, I texted Nick about it today when he sent it to our little podcast group chat about it. I'm just really kind of over the like dystopian thing, rundown, end of the world kind of stuff. I need something else in my life. I don't know, compared to the last couple tribute stores we've got, and I feel like those have really been like super cool, like spooky. I don't know. I just like when we had like the dark ride year, and then the last year with kind of the comic book noir style with the case files aspect. They've just been really cool. So maybe I'll like this one. I mean, we haven't seen inside of it, so we don't really know yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. But let's get into our scare zones. So we're gonna start at number 5, and we'll just go from left to right on all these. So I'm gonna start over with you, Seamus. Number 5. What is your, it sounds bad saying least anticipated, but something has to be at this spot.
For scare zones? So at 5, I've got Duality of Fear.
Okay.
And I'll let you guys kind of go, because I feel like we're all going to kind of be in the same boat, maybe. But I'll let you, I don't know, Jamie, obviously it seems like you have Duality at 5 too.
I do.
Do you, Nick?
I also have Duality of Fear.
I figured we did.
Look at us.
Unfortunately, this suffers, again, for my list, this is kind of the same with a couple other ones, or at least one other one. It suffers a little bit based on the location that it's in for me. Obviously, being right up front, they don't really put as much up there. It's kind of just like a, hey, welcome to the event type deal, and they funnel you into the park. I'm a little optimistic that this year it might be a little better, especially because they have 2 characters and they're kind of like helping you determine like which way you're going to go. You're going to go this way or that way. And it actually kind of gives a little bit more to that than just, people deciding to go one way versus the other. At least there'll be some sort of like Dragons-esque decision making being done. I hope that if they do put any set piece items up front, that they're at least going to use it. I felt like last year they had that wagon that, like, I don't know what you call it, like a magic wagon or whatever the hell it is. He didn't really do much with it. He spent more time walking around, like, and that's fine. Like, he, interacting with people, which is fine. Like that's what you're supposed to do as a scare actor. But like, if you're gonna have a set piece item like that, you would expect to have some show element to it. Because even in front of Jungle last year, at least that that poor kid who was kind of stuck off to the corner had the skull, but at least he was into it. He was doing his show element stuff. He was really trying to get people into it. So I give him props for doing that. I feel like Oddfellow could have used that better or utilized it a little bit better, but I think unfortunately, regardless of how well they scare act that area, it's not the easiest place to have a scare zone, because everyone's they're hyped. They want to get in. They want to go see houses. They want to go do stuff. And them being right there, everyone kind of just zooms right through, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it doesn't really kind of seem like a scare zone to me. I know that's terrible to say, but if it's going to be the split off thing that's kind of leading us into the 2 different pathways, I am interested to see if they do have some, or if any, like set design or props out there, because I think they finally started putting some out. I saw some pictures for the Demon Queen scare zone, which those actually look pretty cool. We'll get to that in a little bit though. But yeah, I guess this one kind of just got like, I feel like there's always that one that's kind of gonna be unanimously at the bottom for us.
Unfortunately, if they continue to have a scare zone up front here, I think generally every year everyone's going to have this one kind of at the bottom, unless they find a way to like really incorporate it and make it more of a scare zone. Because I think like when they had Anarcade a few years ago, when they utilized that space the right way, it can be done well. Obviously that was pushed further back, down that road. It wasn't like right up front. But I almost wish they would just add a 6th scare zone and not really consider this one a scare zone.
I do
Maybe
too.
just have this one like the entrance experience, or the like, enter if you dare type experience, like abandon all hope, all ye into in here, whatever, something like that, and then keep the 5 additional scare zones in the park like they do. But I don't know, Nick, do you have anything to add to that?
Like I agree with that. I really, it's at the point where it is just a table of contents, like introduction to the event. So I would prefer it to be like just that, show off the event, whatever, that's fine, but don't count it as a scare zone. I'd prefer to have, just another scare zone somewhere, whether that's where Killer Clowns was and just tucked away, even if it's smaller, that's fine with me. I really just hope that they do lean into this whole decision-making process. I hope that they do have the 2 pathways where it's like you're going either towards surreal, towards Demon Queens, or you're going towards Torture Fair for Sinister. And I want them both out there kind of like trying to convince you to go one way or the other, because if they just bump it up a little bit, and like where you had Oddfellows like Caravan, you could put the surreal stage, and where they had Pumpkin Lord, you could put the Sinister stage, and kind of put it on that corner so you can have the truss in the entrance with fog and some characters. You walk through there, and once you hit the corner, you have like both of them on either sides of the streets, trying to persuade you to come to their way, because we've learned from their backstory that this isn't, they are a cohesive pair of like torture and evil. They aren't fighting against each other. They're one. They're, I don't know how to put it, but they're on the same goal.
They're like a yin and a yang, more so than like a good versus evil.
Correct. So they work together. So it's not like, come this way, I'm better. It's, just whichever way you want, we're good at, it's all good. But I hope they have some equation up there with the characters, and I hope that's the direction they go, because they've set it up that way with the name and the storyline.
I kind of see them almost as, remember the twin scare actors from Graveyard a couple of years ago? Have a couple of scare actors like that, where they look very much alike, but with obviously like unique costumes, unique personas, and they do a lot of like the dancing around each other and like trying to like woo, like you said, woo you one way versus the other. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I imagine the 2 characters, but we'll see if they go that route.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, so number 4, Seamus, what is at your 4 for scare zones?
So my 4th for the scare zone is Swamp of the Undead.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, which is sad, because I like that area. I love that scare zone area, but the last couple of years, it's fallen really flat for me. Partially because they pump an ungodly amount of fog into it, like too much fog. And I know that some of it's out of their control, in the sense that, like, depending on the weather, it can either sit like it does, like, can get really thick and heavy and sit if it's really, really muggy, or humid for those that are not from New England. It can affect the fog, and it can sit, instead of dissipating or floating up and dissipating. So that can kind of affect it a little bit, but you can control it enough where you don't put as much in, like, you're not running them as heavy.
Don't crank that thing on full blast the whole time.
And unfortunately, that kind of affects your experience, because you can't see anything. You can't see the cool set pieces. I mean, I think Scarecrow was fine, but I felt really like that one felt incredibly dark, and it was really hard to see a lot of things. Last year, the fog was just so heavy; it was really hard to focus on anything. And even then, the jungle theme I wasn't super into it to begin with. And this one, I mean, I'm hoping that, being themed like Louisiana, that it's more voodoo zombie, more, an atypical take on the zombie aesthetic or trope. But I feel like if it's just your standard brains thing, like, that's just, I don't know. It doesn't excite me anymore. And you can blame Walking Dead for that, because I watched too much Walking Dead over the last 4 or 5 years, and then I got super zombied out, and Now, anytime they use zombies in anything, I'm just not going to be super into it. Like if they would just give it a little bit of time, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I get last year they didn't have anything zombie related, so I guess that helps. But
Yeah. It's almost
I
like
don't
a double bad taste in your mouth, whether it's from zombies or from just how
Yeah.
that zone has been executed as of late. That's why it's
Yeah.
fallen so much.
And I think that's part of it. I think it's kind of half and half. If it was something, if the theming was a little more up my alley, then I'd probably give it a little bit more of a fair take. But
yeah,
unfortunately, combined how weak that zone's been the last couple of seasons to the theme, I don't know. We'll see.
all right.
This might be another year of power walking through that scare zone and not sticking too long in it.
So you can't power walk too fast because you'll bump into something.
Well, you'll run into
what
somebody.
the hell's going on in there? So Jamie, you're number 4 for scare zones.
At number 4, I have Demon Queens.
Wow. Okay. All right.
That's low.
Unfortunately. I mean, every time I look
think
at it, I'm like, there's only 5 of them, so.
I think the people need answers. Why is it so low for you?
But it's below. It's top to bottom too. I'm surprised from you. I figured this one would have been high on your list.
I don't know what it really, like I said, I had seen some of the pictures finally of like the props and stuff like that, and they do look really cool. And I'm very excited to see the costume work and the design, and I know they're all going to look really beautiful and extravagant, but I just feel like it's too similar, I guess, and like maybe it's like the coloring and kind of like the theming that they chose to Dark Zodiac from last year. But even just like those portals like that I saw in the scare zone and like different like stuff they have, like I feel like that would have worked really well last year too. But I don't know. I feel like the other 3 just kind of piqued my interest a little bit more, which I know might be a hot take because we'll get into it shortly, but yeah.
Well, this is going to shake things up. We all have different number 4s.
I know what your number 4 is going to be.
My number 4 is Enter the Blumhouse.
I knew it.
Yeah, I figured that.
It had to be, right? It wasn't going to be Torture Fair, and I said it was different, so I really like the Blumhouse properties. I do. I except Megan, maybe Megan, but I like and it's going to sound bad, but I like the stupid horror comedy style that Blumhouse has really incorporated and embraced and ran with it, right? They're not going to put out a movie called Imaginary with Chauncey the Bear and pretend like they are something else, at this point. They still do some, with Insidious and Sinister, they still have small doses of that like true horror, but they know what they're doing with half of these movies. They're having fun with it. They're making them for cheap, and it's interesting characters and fun storylines that we haven't necessarily seen completely in horror sense. So, but the fact that, kind of like to Seamus's point, San Francisco for me has sort of been on the downslope a little bit. We had Shipyard 32, which I think it was a complete swing and miss. We had Conjure the Dark, which I did really like, but from what we've seen for Enter the Blumhouse, the things I liked about Conjure the Dark are not being used in this zone. They're not doing the push backstage with a show element, stuff like that. So that's good. And then before that, we had Crypt TV, which kind of lines right up to Blumhouse. It's more, for me, just a photo op scare zone. Now, I love this zone, and kind of with Central Park, like the theming on these 2 is like right there for you. And they just kind of choose stuff that doesn't cater towards the setting. And it does hurt it a little bit. So I hope that I enjoy this more. But in my mind, it is photo ops. That's what this is. So I'm hoping that I'm proven wrong a little bit and I enjoy this. But with only being 5 zones, I really don't know how much this will shake up as we go through the season. But I am excited to see stuff. Like I'm excited to see the Grabber and Purge people, and Megan will be there, I guess. Whatever, I might wave at her and tell her fuck off. But let's see. I'm very curious to see there's still some intrigue with the Blumhouse because we don't know, like until we go there, we don't know exactly which characters are there 100%. Besides the ones that are promoted, I can't imagine they'd stick with just those 4 or 5 that they've released. So, are we going to get a Bagul? Are we going to get Totally Killer? Are we going to get, anything from Insidious? We don't know for sure yet. So I think 4 is a fine spot for it for right now. So Seamus, to your number 3, right in the middle of scare zones.
Yeah, my number 3 is Demon Queens.
Demon Queens. Okay.
I'm again, like I am every year. I'm intrigued for the most part by whatever is going to be in Hollywood or on Hollywood Boulevard. And every single year, it just doesn't quite hit. And I think partially, again, it suffers from the zone more so than the theme itself. They don't light it right. And that's no shade against the lighting techs at Universal. It's just for whatever reason, it's not bright in that scare zone. It hasn't been, not since the runway one.
Vanity Ball.
Like that one was lit well. Everyone after that, it's been so dark. It's hard to see what's going on. It's really hard to get an appreciation for the setup and the character and what they're wearing, what the costume looks like. It's really hard to gather any thoughts because it's just so dark. And I feel like unless they've improved that, this one's going to suffer again, where it's like these characters are going to be in really awesome, unique costumes and really kind of each have their own character. And you're not going to see a lot of it because it's just going to be so murky. But once the sun goes down, if you get there like at dusk and the sun hasn't completely set yet, it's fine. But once the sun goes down, that scare zone, it's just so murky. And then of course, they're going to stick all the chainsaws in there, and I know I harp on it, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, stop complaining." I'm like, well, I'm not complaining. It's just that will bring this scare zone down for me again. Because I want to spend time and I want to appreciate, what's going on. Like I want to appreciate the scare actors and the work that they're putting in. I can't spend more than 5 minutes in there if the whole time it's like I hate that noise. Yeah. I hate it.
No, I know it is annoying, especially after
a
while.
I know I keep dwelling on it and I harp on it every single year, but like it's such a pet peeve of mine. And I know they're going to be like the Demon Queen minions or whatever, or Sinister's minions, or Shireel, whichever one's in that zone. It's going to be their minions, their chainsaw minions, because we have to put them somewhere because we have them.
Can't not have them.
So stupid. You know what? Everybody go Google what chainsaws were invented for, and you will agree with me for going forward, and you will never ever like them again. Don't actually look that up because it's gross, but you should. But
don't. Jamie, your number 3 scare zone.
My number 3 scare zone is going to be Swamp of the Undead.
Wow, no love for Swamp of the Undead on this podcast.
Well, she's got it right in the middle.
Number 3? What are you talking about? It's at number 3.
Yeah, it's true, but it's only
top 3.
Yeah,
he's just mad because it's his number 1.
It's also bottom. It's also bottom 3.
I guess. If you put it that way.
I'm a glass empty kind of guy.
I feel like I put it up kind of high, honestly.
Well, it's tough.
Yeah, it's actually. I'm surprised it's above Demon Queens for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
it's the Florida in me that really draws me in.
So is it much like
it's a Louisiana swamp? It's not even a Florida swamp.
It looks like
gator and a little turtle in there.
So I'm just saying it literally says Louisiana. So
yeah. So what is similar reasons to Seamus? Is that why it kind of is not at more towards the top? Like, there's only 2 more spots available, but like
exactly.
What gets you excited about this?
I just think I think Seamus, even though you don't like all the fog, which I get to, but I think this theming that they're doing this year with Swamp the Undead is going to be perfect for all the fog that they're doing. And I have a feeling, I think it would be better if they did it this way too. I think if they have the lower fog machines that kind of go like over your feet, over your ankles a little bit and kind of make it look like that water, like murky effect versus having it blowing like directly in your fucking face.
Eye
like,
level. Yeah.
Eye level. Yeah. Which I think I could see him doing that. That would make more sense too and kind of go with the flow literally a little bit more. But it does get a little overwhelming and a little packed there. And for me, that's a little much sometimes. I was going to say, for me, it's a lot sometimes too. Because I do like
the fog scare zone the way it is.
Yeah. Because I do
There was
like
a couple times there was a couple times I've been maced by those machines. I walk by and just all of my, I'm like, okay, I can't see. And
I mean, if they can get it to do what you're saying, Jamie, and get it to kind of like hover right along the ground, which they can do that. It's called like making sure the ice machines, like the machines have ice and it's cold. There are machines that will do that. Like if the fog is cold, it will stay along the ground, but they just, and the thing just like fills the whole walkway with fog, and you can't see anything. You can't see the sets. You don't see. I mean, I get they want to hide the scare actors, but I don't know. Build more appropriate sets that hide the scare actors instead of having to need to use the fog. And I'm hoping that last year that was part of the reason why they did it, is because maybe they felt like the scare zone wasn't as done up well enough and they needed the fog. So I'm hoping that this year it's better and they don't need to use as much fog, because I bet you this will easily.
I feel like that's the only reason I get scared in that scare zone, though, is because you can't really see it kind of ahead of you in the fog. I got scared a good couple times last year.
But then my point.
But then you run into people too, which kind of sucks.
My argument to that is, if you need that much fog to be effective, then your theming isn't effective.
Yeah, but I feel like for a scare zone, it's kind of hard for a scare zone, though, if you have it out in the open.
What's in the scare zone, like, what's the point? My point is like, what's the point of having, like, you can't see anything? Like literally, like, the fog is so thick that, like, it obscures everything along the sides of the scare zone. So it's like, well, okay, cool. Like, I can't see what's going on. There's nothing there. Like, oh, you scared me because you came out of nowhere. But, like, I don't know. Again, this is me, probably old man yelling at clouds or yelling at fog.
No,
whatever.
Well,
I feel like it's hard to get. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry, I was just going to say, I feel like it's hard to get a good scare in scare zones. Go ahead.
Yeah. But my number 3 is Demon Queens. This is where I have the lovely ladies of Surreal.
Okay.
It was tricky because I sort of made this list a little bit before we saw all the scare zone props. And up to this point, the only props really there are those big purpley portal style things. So again, not much really to go off of. So I can't really say either way if I'm, like, really into this zone or not. All we've seen is those pictures of the costumes, and I think those are pretty cool. But yeah, for me, it goes over Duality Fear just because that scare zone is what it is. We've kind of come to realize that unless they make a big change this year, that scare zone doesn't really get too much thought. And then Blumhouse, for me, if it's a photo op zone, it's going to go towards the bottom. But I hope that Demon Queens kind of recaptures some of that Hollywood magic, because I wasn't a super big fan of Lights, Camera, Action. I know a lot of people were, because it was cool seeing a lot of the various scare zones. But for me, again, that was just very, look at that, photo op-y. And Dark Zodiac was probably one of my more disappointing scare zones of all time, just because I had the hype build up for it super high. The last one that I really loved was Graveyard Deadly Unrest, and that was done beautifully. It was dark, like Seamus said, but at least for that setting, it felt like there was a reason for it, versus the other ones that are just kind of lit that way. But yeah, I got to put it there until we really know and see more. I can't justifiably put it above the other two, which have really, put everything out there, or at least we think everything's out there. But let's get into our top 2. So Seamus, your number 2 scare zone.
Yeah, this is the hot take of the episode. My number 2 is Enter the Blumhouse. It was a hot take on Monday when we recorded with the roundtable. It's still a hot take, I think, and I think partially because, let's be honest, Shipyard wasn't good, and no. I know that Jamie doesn't agree with us, but I'm gonna call something when I as I see it, and that scare zone just was not effective. It was too hodgepodge. There was nothing going on. There was no focus. It was just random monsters. Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. Now, the argument is, well, this is just a Blumhouse scrapbook, right? Like, it's just a bunch of different Blumhouse characters that are going to be, I don't know, I guess, milling about or stuck in their own little stations. I know we don't have anything confirmed yet. So, like Nick is saying, if it is more like Crypt TV and it ends up, being just a pocket of different stations, and you can kind of stop at one and, like, see, this is this character, and this is this character. Yeah, that's going to be kind of boring. I am ranking it this way because I expect it, and I'm hoping that it's more like the Rob Zombie zone, where it's not like movie. It's Blumhouse. Mm-hmm. And then, like, just one big Blumhouse zone. You're going to have different characters milling about. You're going to have music from the movies, maybe trailers playing on the side being projected. Kind of maybe incorporate the bar that's right there, the Peacock bar, that'll get incorporated into it in some capacity. And then we're going to get more characters than what we've been given so far. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. Now, if it's more like what Nick's on Nick's side, then yeah, I would agree. It will drop down the rankings a little bit for me at the end of the event. But for now, I am cautiously optimistic this zone will be better than people expect, and it won't. I mean, granted, it is somewhat of a cash grab zone. I get it, but I feel like it was one of those things that they have a deal with Blumhouse. There has to be something Blumhouse related in the park every year for the last 3 or 4 years, or whatever that contract is. Or maybe their contract ran out and they said, we want to keep Blumhouse in the park in some capacity, even though we don't have a house. Would you mind doing a scare zone? Whatever it is, I feel like this obviously is some sort of needs to be here thing, and that's why they did it. But on the same token, I'm gonna be a little more optimistic about it and hope that it's better than what people are expecting.
Yeah. Jamie, you're number 2.
Number 2. This is a hot take too. My number.
Our hot takes episode was on Monday.
You guys have already. I was gonna say you guys have already seen my list. I think. Well, no, I just sent you.
No, I haven't. I don't know what your list is.
Maybe they didn't tell you. So
no, Hunter just like
he
it
just
was all
added
points
him in
based,
there.
so we don't really know. Yeah, we don't know where people's rankings truly were.
So my
Unless
number 2 is going to be Ye Old Torture Fair.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
All right, that's a hotter take than my hot take. Okay.
That is.
Yeah. See, everybody, it's not just Seamus.
We're all over the place on these things.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Liking what you're seeing so far in the zone?
For Torture Fair?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
of course.
Torture Fair, I think is a hot take. That's not even what I'm exclaiming.
Mm-hmm. Are you surprised it's at number 2? Did I do these rankings wrong? You're acting like I have them like at very bottom.
Well, let's get to your one in a minute, and then I'll continue.
You really made me think I did them wrong. I'm like, why is he so surprised?
I'm more surprised about what that leaves at the number 1 spot.
I think that's where him and I are both like.
You're not surprised.
A little bit.
No.
Just a little bit. All right, well, I guess
my IPs didn't get no love this year. I have a little something, I guess.
All right. Well, I guess we can.
Please explain why Torture Fair is at 2, though. Sorry, we didn't mean to talk over you.
Only because my IPs didn't get enough love this year, and that's the only thing really keeping me going.
That's the only reason.
And you guys know I like the compilation scare zones in the houses. I liked Crypt TV. I've watched all the shorts for them. I thought it was really cool how they did the little setup for it. Personally, I don't mind stuff like that. I like a photo oppie scare zone because it is nice to go back and look at the photo memes and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. And they did mention today that they were kind of going to be doing the photo ops with like specific characters from like houses or whatever. That kind of been popular because I guess people have been saying they want to do stuff like that. But all in all, I think that it's not going to be as similar to Crypt TV and some of the other like stagnant scare zones we got. I do think, kind of Seamus, how you said, I think it's going to be more of a roaming crowd of different Blumhouse notable characters that we are familiar with, and I definitely don't think it's just going to be the 4 or 5 that they've shown so far. I know that definitely the Purge people are going to be in there because I saw that they posted some more pics and different stuff from the scare zone with the sign, the Purge is commencing, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I'm excited for that. But with Torture Fair, I guess it's just, I don't know. I feel like they have a lot of like props set up and all the different like torture devices and everything like that, and I think it's really cool and very interesting. But I'm kind of worried that either everyone, they're going to have at least 1 or 2 scare actors on each device as it is, and I feel like maybe that's going to leave the scare zone itself kind of empty when you're walking through it, and it's kind of going to be like a look-see, like you're looking around at the different stage setups and whatnot and stuff like that. And so I hope they do have, I'm just afraid it's going to be kind of lacking in scare actors, which that's a very big scare zone, so I doubt it will be. But just with kind of pictures I've seen, and I wish I've been to the parks more and haven't had more time to actually look at it up in detail, but it does look really cool and I love the theming of it and I know I'm going to enjoy it, but I don't know, something's got me to where I can't put it at my 1 just yet, but it might change. We'll see. Maybe I absolutely despise the Blumhouse scare zone and think it's stupid.
No, it's a fair opinion. That's a fair opinion.
Yeah,
you do actually bring up another point, not to cut into Nick's time, but just another fair point when it comes to the Blumhouse. And I didn't think of this, but like I'm hoping that maybe like it won't be the same every single time. Like you'll like at some point, like every so often, you'll hear the annual purge has begun, and the purge characters will kind of come out and do their little thing, and then you'll have the Megans come out and do the Megan thing. Like it'll switch it up a little bit and give it more of a live feel, rather than just the same stuff at every location. But sorry, Nick, you're number 2.
No, my number 2, just like Jamie, I got Torture Fair at number 2. A point that she brought up that I didn't necessarily think about before was the fact that, with all these stage setups, like I hope that doesn't leave the fair people that walking around in the middle that aren't either on stage or on the little side shows. I hope that there's still enough of them to make it feel full. But I mean, we got the props out. We got the Blood Eagle. We have like the Brazen Bull. The Breaking Wheel is out there as well. So I'm excited. The only thing too that draws me back is it is very stage heavy too, where I hope it's not
empty
like
stages
here, and then like the middle is just kind of empty. Like that's the biggest scare zone. You got to utilize it for what it is. We had with Major Suites, you had those giant parade floats in the middle. With Vamp, you had this, the cars in the middle, and I'm sure they'll put stuff in the middle as well and utilize the space that they have. But so far, I can only assume they're going to. That's why I have it at 2. I'm excited for it. I'm not a huge like Ren Fairy style person. I don't really care about those either way. I know it's semi in the fantasy realm, but not completely. So it's of interest, and I hope that it's performed well. I can't wait to see what actually goes on with it. So let's get to our number 1s. So Seamus, your number 1 scare zone.
Oh, my number 1 leaves me with Torture Fair. So you guys get it at 2. I get a number 1. This is probably this has been my most hyped scare zone since they announced them. It hasn't changed. I dig the medieval thing. Like I like the medieval theming. Obviously more than fantasy, and I get that there's some fantasy elements to it, but it definitely feels more like a messed up Ren Fair, which I think to me is an interesting idea. Like you always kind of think about that when you see these Renaissance fairs. You're like, what if they actually like tortured people and like sword fought and stuff, like, and actually like killed people at these things instead of just pretending? Yeah, and like so like that idea is kind of interesting to me. I've always been that kid that's like wanted to go to like torture museums and see all the different torture devices and go, oh, look at this. Oh, it's gnarly. And like that type of stuff. So like, this is kind of like exactly what,
what the doctor ordered
brings me in or whatever. And I think that you're right. I think there is something to be cautious about, which is it is a very open space. That scare zone is huge. And if you have too many stationary things, it does open it up and make it feel empty. But I feel like if you compare it to Vamp last year, Vamp had a number of stations, down the sides and in the middle. So there were a number of them in that one as well. And it felt pretty crowded. And the problem with Vamp was that you didn't know who was a scare actor and who wasn't, because they all looked like normal people. So hopefully this year they'll be wearing period era costumes. So at least you'll differentiate who's a scare actor and who isn't. But I think I still think this one's going to be fun. As long as they do a good enough job with the sound design and the set design, and it transports you from Universal into like a Renaissance era or fair or whatever you want to call it, then I think it'll have succeeded. I think this is where I'm also struggling with the tribute store, because it doesn't fit the theme
at all.
Yeah. Exactly.
They clash with each other, and that also kind of is where I'm like, ugh. Like,
it's gonna look bad.
Right, I get what they were going for, but they should have maybe pushed the scare zone in a little bit and separated the two.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's gonna clash with each other, and that's the only thing that I'm kind of like on. But otherwise, this is still my most hyped scare zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Jamie, you showed your cards. Your number 1 scare zone is, of course.
We kind of did that too.
I showed my cards. No, it's okay. Everyone was able to guess already. I'm more shocked by your number 1 scare zone, Nick.
Yeah, so
I'm not.
Yours is Blumhouse, of course. You talked about that, but then my number 1, Swamp of the Undead.
That's That's crazy. Honestly.
That doesn't surprise me.
Maybe because it has the most props out and it's the most decorated. That, like that gets it. That definitely
That's
gets a
fair.
leg up. I have the best idea of what this zone is at this moment.
Yeah.
I am just praying to the HHN Universal gods that they have listened to the feedback about, and stuff we've mentioned, right? And we've seen that they've done it by expanding the zone without necessarily expanding the zone. They have that big shack like up in behind the fencing, so the zone feels better even though you're not intruding into the walkway space. So that's a bonus. They have stuff on the other side as well. They have a whole like airboat or a fan boat or whatever those things are called. You have that stuck over somewhere as well. I think that they're doing a good job expanding it. And the fact that they have so much stuff out there prop wise leads me to believe maybe they're not going to completely cover and just hide everything with fog, because I would hope that you don't put all that stuff out there all for nothing and just completely whitewash everything. Cause that would just seem like a silly waste of time and props, but I'm excited for this one. The zombie aspect kind of pulls me back a little bit just because it's zombies, but I'm hoping that they do it in a different enough way that makes it feel not so zombie-esque, I guess is the way. So those are our scare zones. Again, let's just start with Seamus. Let's go 5 through 1 for your scare zones, and we'll do the same to Jamie, myself, and we'll get into the houses.
Yeah. So my scare zones is at 5, Duality of Fear, 4, Swamp of the Undead, 3, Demon Queens, 2, Enter the Blumhouse, and 1, Torture Fair.
Okay. And mine are at 5, Duality of Fear as well, 4, Demon Queens, 3, Swamp of the Undead, 2, Torture Fair, and 1, Enter the Blumhouse.
And then for myself, I have 5, Duality of Fear, 4, Enter the Blumhouse, 3, Turtle Doves. No, 3, Demon Queens, 2 is Torture Fair, and 1, Swamp of the Undead. I'm funny sometimes. I know. Man, so let's get into it. This is what people have been waiting for. We don't need to hold them up any longer. Let's get into our houses. Seamus, you're number 10 on your house hype list.
All right, so we're getting into the meat of the episode, even though we're 50 minutes in. No, I'm just joking. So my number 10 is, unfortunately, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And we didn't really get a ton of airtime to really talk about this on the other combo episode, but the problem here is, one, my fault. I haven't watched it yet. But at the same time, I haven't watched the one prior to this. I forget what it's called. New
Afterlife.
Era, whatever, the Afterlife. So I really haven't given either of those movies a chance yet. And I think the fact that this house is based on that specific movie, I think it's really going to hurt it for me, because and I get it. I'm going to probably watch the movie before next week. I'll watch it at least once, just to kind of get an idea of what's going on in it. But I won't lie to you. Much like Beetlejuice, I wasn't the biggest Ghostbusters fan growing up. Like, I liked it for what it was. As a kid, it was funny. Bill Murray's a funny dude. It was a funny movie. Kind of out there, wacky stuff. But it's not one of those movies that I go back to every season. Like, it's not like I have to watch Ghostbusters every Halloween because it's just something new. Yeah. It's just not one I do. So whether or not it was original Ghostbusters or new Ghostbusters, I don't think this would have changed for me very much. Maybe a little bit, but in reality, I just think that this one's going to be fun. It's going to be okay. I mean, I get it. It's Ghostbusters. It's the movie. It's beat for beat the scenes in the movie. You might get some Easter eggs from throughout the series here and there. Maybe we'll get a Harold Ramis, throw out or shout out or something like that. And that's fine. I think that's exactly it. Like, that's why it's a 10 for me. Is it's just going to be fine. It's going to be a fine house that you can do a couple of times when the lines aren't incredibly long, and it'll be what it is. But for me, I'm not getting incredibly excited for it.
Yeah. So Jamie, you're number 10.
My number 10. I wonder if you can guess it. You might not.
I can't.
But you
actually.
might. But you might. It's gonna go to Museum Deadly Exhibits.
Oh,
wow!
Wow.
Holy shit!
I was gonna
really?
say Ghostbusters, but
Really? I've literally
I
said
didn't
like
say I wouldn't.
this whole
I wouldn't have
week
said
I'm saying how
Ghostbusters, but
museum is not really hyped up for
wow,
me.
10?
I'm surprised you guys are so
I
shocked by that.
honestly no. My guess would have been Quiet Place.
You're gonna be real surprised then, Seamus.
Okay,
I was gonna
all
say
right.
Ghostbusters.
All right, then I reserve my judgment. Yeah, but that's wow. I mean, I knew you weren't super high on the museum to begin with, but I'm
No.
surprised it was a 10.
And from
Yeah,
my
that's
my
like,
sources that I've spoken to without having spoilers of the houses with seeing pictures
Oh.
said that
Oh.
my
See, that's
my
your problem
theory
right there.
my theory is correct. I trust my sources.
See, you trust too much in spoilers.
No,
But
if it didn't hype me up from the beginning, I don't think it would have hyped me up by now. It was one of the earlier houses that we got when we got the announcements and stuff like that. And I feel like it's just, like I said, it's the folklore aspect did kind of get it for me. Like that did make it a little more intriguing for me. But yeah, the museum stuff, I don't know. Not that I don't think it's going to be scary or anything like that, because we have houses that are fantastic that aren't really that scary per se, but I don't know, the museum stuff just doesn't really do it for me. It just doesn't intrigue me really much, and it seems like they're basing it on the rotting stone, like that's going to be like the focal point of the house. I mean, maybe it will be other things and have a little bit more detail and a little more exhibits, I guess. We'll see, but as of right now, it's going to be at number 10 for me.
I remember when it got announced and you were very upset.
I was. I
It's
said
so
stupid. I said stupid. I
Yeah,
said the
they're all-
museum. Because everyone was making fun of it right off the rip. Everyone was like, oh, night at the museum. And I'm like, exactly. It's
fair
just
points. It's all fair
silly.
points.
Silly,
all fair
silly.
points. I
But
just
it's
wanna,
okay.
I just want to remind everybody how much shit I got when they announced Dueling Dragons, and I was all poo-pooing it and like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And everyone's like, oh, you're just a hater. You're just a hater. I just want to remind everybody of what happened.
Everyone can hate on JB's take
They're
on the
gonna-
museum now this
I
year.
think I'm a hater too, because I've seen a lot of people's hype list and a lot of people have it very high, and I'm shocked, honestly. So maybe I'm
just
not
giving
seeing
you shit.
something. Maybe I'm seeing something they're
No,
not
you made
seeing.
fair
But
points. Those are all fair points. I mean, it is one of those ones where we don't know what it's going to be yet.
Mhm.
And this might disappoint everybody, or it might surprise people. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out. But
you guys know how I'm very open-minded when it comes to houses. Maybe I'll hate on it. I mean,
Yeah.
the only one I'd say not really was the
I
last.
think we're
of Us,
all very
but-
open-minded.
Mhm.
Unless it's Dueling Dragons, then we're not.
Even
open-minded.
I even like the Chucky house.
Well, that's
All
the
right. Well,
hottest
this
of all hot takes, I guess.
this leads us to Nick for your number 10.
So my number 10, I am right there with Seamus. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Wow.
I am a fan of Ghostbusters as a series, but Frozen Empire is probably my least favorite Ghostbusters movie they've ever made. I would put 1 and 2 above it. I would put Afterlife above it, and I would even put the female remake above it. I just did not like that movie. It's, as a movie, just not fun. I was very excited when it was this whole Frozen Empire aspect. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, Frozen New York. It's got a cool looking villain. And then the storyline for me just sort of fell flat. The coolest part was the villain, and the villain was barely in it. I don't know. It's not getting me excited to revisit the Ghostbusters world really in the slightest. I think I think they reached to get this because they didn't have any other IPs available to them with a big name, and Ghostbusters is that big name. But they were like, hey, you're doing Ghostbusters Frozen Empire because you already had the original one. That's just how my brain worked for their conversation. But yeah, it's tough being excited about a house that is based on a movie that I'm not excited about. The franchise, if it was just Ghostbusters, like you said, Seamus, it won't be at 10, but it would be in the bottom 3, I'd say still, just on this year. So we'll see. I have an open mind, but I'm not super sold on it. And I have learned my lesson of past hype lists to always bank on originals above IPs for the most part. That tends to be where they can really showcase their skills the most.
Yeah, I feel like Ghostbusters, if any of these IPs were to be swapped out with something else, Ghostbusters would be the one that I'd expect to be swapped out.
That would be the one that I would swap out first immediately. without question. So, Seamus, you're number 9.
So we are back to me for my number 9. My number 9 is Triplets of Terror. I know, I'm sorry, Jamie.
Whoa.
We've already kind of talked about it. This one
are
doesn't
all over the
excite
place.
me.
This episode, this hype list is
I think this is the
insane.
I think we knew that. I think because we've all agreed that this year is not exciting. Like
I feel like
I don't want to say it like that. That makes it sound like no, it's okay. It's just this year is definitely there's nothing on this list that everyone's like, oh my god. There isn't like that one house for everybody that's like, holy crap, like I can't wait this year. This year it's just like everything is just like, okay, that's cool. All right, I'm interested to see what they do with that one. So like this one, it's just a hard list. So that way everybody's is going to be somewhat different.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one just doesn't. This just as of right now, it's not doing it for me. It didn't do it for me when they announced it. I hate the name of it, to be honest with you. Triplets of Terror. It just sounds so. Yeah, it sounds so like $10 haunted attraction in the backwoods done by mom and pop to me.
Yeah.
Like I expect something like this from like I don't want to say lower end, but I expect this from more like a local haunt, not a universal haunt. And again, that's no shade at local haunts, but there's just something about when you talk about Universal horror nights, you want big bombastic themes, big bombastic houses. I just think with this one, it's just going to be the same old. It's going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre without Leatherface. It's going to be C-movie slasher without any real direction. And I don't know. From the pictures that I have unfortunately had to see, it doesn't excite me.
Oh, see, I
Did
haven't
you
seen
see
any.
some? I haven't seen any. Yeah,
I've seen a couple people.
I'm kind of pissed. I saw a couple from Slaughter. I'm kind of mad.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Exactly what I figured would happen by allowing these stupid backstage tours prior to the event opening is exactly what's happening. So, warning to anyone that hasn't done it yet: don't Google the houses.
Yeah,
people
and
are
it's
sharing
like
thousands of pictures and Google Images and stuff.
You can post like Instagram like photos with like the photo like reels now, and like you could post like a warning at the front. But with how Instagram is, like it doesn't always go to that first photo, so some of those photos will already be pushed over, and that's how I saw it by accident.
That's why I've been trying to avoid it. And
because
the
it
only
was
reason
like,
it happened is because I Googled it.
We put the spoiler-free warning at the beginning. It's like, yeah, that's like your first photo and like the reel or whatever of how it is.
We said it before. I think I'm bummed. I'm sure you agree with me that they should have been cameras, like photos down the whole time.
Yeah. And
until
then
the event starts, everything should have been photo down. But
someone in the Horror Nights group on Facebook was like in the comments, and it like pops up usually because I'm not frequent on there, but obviously I get the notifications because it's something I like to keep up with. But people someone said, I tried not to look at it really quick, but someone fucking said all the names of the movies in Slaughter Cinema, and I'm like, come on, like that's annoying.
That was in one
too.
of the news articles.
That was annoying. Yeah.
Hopefully I can avoid that. But people don't do that shit. Like I know that most of our listeners or all of our listeners wouldn't do that, but But don't be that person. Like the event hasn't started. Don't share shit.
And I like spoilers, and I don't want to see them.
Yeah, it's just that's annoying. But either way, that's not entirely the reason why this is here. This doesn't excite me. The slasher thing. Like I like certain slashers, but again, it's only because I want to see those IPs like in person. Like I would love to see Freddy, just because Freddy's one of my favorite characters of all time, and just to kind of be in that in that environment. This is just like hey, we needed something. Yeah. And again, I'm kind of hoping that it proves me wrong and it actually is really good, which it might, but as of right now, yeah, this is definitely not something. It's not doing it for me.
All right. Well, Jamie, you're number 9.
Number 9. It's Ghostbusters. Frozen Empire.
Okay. So not far off from everybody else.
Over here going, I can't believe 10.
Oh, yeah. Yep, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. So, funny enough, Seamus, I know you said you haven't seen it. I've tried to watch this movie probably 3 times now, and I still haven't been able to finish it. Either one, I fall asleep, which I tend to do a lot during movies anyways. Or 2, it's the fact that I just can't really get into it like with the other ones. And I know you said the same thing. I'm not really a huge Ghostbusters fan. It's not one of those movies I have to watch every Halloween, like Halloween. That's a must. But it's not something like that I just have that connection to. And growing up, I wasn't really not that I wasn't familiar with Ghostbusters, but like I don't think I really saw it until I was probably like 13, 14. Like,
Yeah, it was the same with me.
Yeah. So
I mean, the thing is like my parents, they're not like, this is the type of stuff, they're not into this. Like they were never Halloween people. Like they never really liked any of that stuff. So like it wasn't like my parents were like, hey man, we gotta watch Ghostbusters together. Like we didn't do that. Like there were certain movies, but half the time it was like when the family would get together and we'd all put something on for a holiday. But like generally my parents weren't like, I mean, for Star Wars, yes. For things like that, yes. But like Ghostbusters was just one of those ones that it wasn't like, you know, I got to sit down and watch this with my kids every year. No, it had to be like fucking the 10 Commandments. Thanks, Dad. But
every Easter, every goddamn Easter, I got to watch this stupid fucking movie.
Exactly. Or the fucking Scrooge movie, but not the good one with the Muppets. Funny. No, the fucking Scrooge movie that's black and white from like 1942. Like I'm not. Are we fucking serious?
Dad loves that movie.
Of course he does. But
of course he does. It's a man out of his time.
I agree with you, Jamie. I don't think I actually sat down and watched Ghostbusters until I was in high school. I think I hadn't seen it. I mean, and again, I watch it occasionally. Yeah, this one, and that's what I'm worried about. Is I'm going to put this one on and I'm going to fall asleep. Yeah, it's like I'm going to go watch I watch Halloween Town every year because Halloween Town, that's my childhood. Like that's retro for me.
Absolute
that's nostalgic.
Seamus. I'm so glad you said that because you have to watch Halloween.
Ghostbusters is not that. At least not for me.
Ghostbusters will. No, you know what? I'm not even going to say it. That's not. Ghostbusters will
not comparing the two, Jamie. Relax. Not comparing the two.
No. Give me a Halloween Town house, damn it.
Yeah, high five.
Disney. Nope.
Didn't last one. Schmiz me.
So we'll go over to my number 9, and this one might shock some people too, but. Like I said, I've learned my lesson with these IPs, and number 9 is A Quiet Place.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't shock me at all.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. I am.
When you've been talking about it, I kind of figured it'd be low.
I'm very interested. I do like these movies a lot, which is interesting. It's interesting that movies that I do enjoy are not exciting me on this list, and that's just there. It's just not a movie that. In my head, and obviously if I could visualize it perfectly in my head, I would be building these houses for Universal.
Right.
Unfortunately, I am not. So in my mind, I just can't see it until I walk through it. It's sort of what held Dragons down for me last year, where I was like, the main thing in this, I can't see being accomplished with it being dragons. You know, like that's a very large scale character. And that aspect of doing dragons didn't work. Those two stationary dragons, while they looked cool, the only attempted scare of a dragon you got was the little claw guy.
They weren't that good.
So that's one of my fears for A Quiet Place. Whereas these creatures are very large scale, they are trickier to pull off. So I'm optimistic. I'm very curious about the whole how ASL is incorporated into this house and how the whole drowning out the sound thing works. I'm very if they could pull this off, this could be a very, very shocking end of the season list. But for right now, the ways that IPs sort of kind of get pigeonholed and lower the list for me, that's just unfortunately where it has to land for me. So yeah, Quiet Place at number 9. So Seamus, you're number 8.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. All fair points. My number 8 though is Goblin's Feast.
Okay.
And the only reason this is at 8 and it's not lower is because Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire and Triplets of Terror. Again, this is not going to be the same
for goblins.
But yeah, well, this isn't the same as my Dwagons hate. Like last year. Like last year, I was legitimately like offended that they did Dueling Dragons. I'm not offended that they did Goblins, but I will say that when they announced this was the first original they announced. It was the first one they announced, guys.
Well, they did Slaughter Cinema at Spook. They did Slaughter.
That's right. Sorry, they did Slaughter Cinema at Spooky, but I don't really count that one because it's a sequel and whatever. The first new original that they announced, was Goblin's Feast. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I saw the title for the first time and you sent it to us, you sent it to me and Jamie, I literally, this is, for anyone that's not on YouTube, go watch the YouTube. I did this. I went, again? Really? But I will say this much. Seeing the releases that they've kind of given out already, like the pictures of the goblins, I feel like this one, I'm going to give it a little bit of a pass because they are going to kind of take it in a, this is supposed to be, we know what this is. Like we know what we're doing here. This isn't like we're trying to make this serious. Like this is gonna be goofy. This is gonna be like a comedy horror. Like it's supposed to be funny. Like it knows what it's doing. It knows what it is. It knows where it's supposed to be. So I'm giving it a little bit of a pass this year because of that. But I also, as of right now, don't have a lot of hope for it. I mean, I do. Obviously, I have it at 8. So it's. I mean, there's a twinkle in my brain somewhere that says this might be fun. This might actually be a good excursion. Like, hey, I just want to go do something and enjoy myself. Goblins could be it. Yeah. There are just 7 other houses that I think are better and gonna be more enjoyable. So as of right now, Goblin's Feast is right where I figured it would be in my hype list when I first saw it. I still am not sold on it yet, but I'm willing to change my mind. I was willing to change my mind on dragons. It couldn't do that. Maybe goblins can. We'll see. But I'm not going to sit here and like hate on it though, like I did dragons, because dragons deserve to be hated on. This one doesn't.
Jamie, you're number 8.
So I'm following along the Seamus train. My number 8 is also Goblin's Feast.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
It is.
My negativity is rubbing off on everyone. Let's go.
With this one, kind of like you said, Seamus. I mean, after seeing the goblin designs and stuff like that, I think they are going to look pretty cool. It will be pretty kind of like that fun, more vibey house, I guess. Not as scary, which is fine. But like you said, too, I mean, you kind of really said it as best as I would say. I just feel like 7 of the other houses I feel like will do a little bit more for me than this one would. But like you said, I'm not hating on it. I feel like I'll definitely go through it, still have fun. Maybe I'll like it more than I expected. Who knows? But as of right now, I think 8 is a good spot for it. I remember when we first got the announcement too, I think Nick and I were both at work and I pulled it up on my phone and we both looked at it and I said, stupid. I said, stupid. But we'll see.
I think, again, I think I've brought this up once or twice before. I think part of this is because they're trying to be something for everyone. They're trying to make this event accessible to a lot of people in a lot of different age groups. And I think this is the effect of it. You're going to see stuff like this going forward, like dragons, goblins. Like you're going to see things like this going forward where we're trying to not just be balls to the walls, scary, gory, adult themed. We're trying to do things that are a little less so, even though we're still going to be 13 and up. We know people bring their kids to this. So we want to try to make there's something there for them. And I'm not going to sit here and say whether I agree with it or I don't, because I don't want to start a fight with people, but they post an age for a reason. I feel like they shouldn't have to do that, but I feel like this is part of it. And maybe I'm just being a conspiracy theorist here, but I think this is what it feels like. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it feels like the family house.
Yeah, it's like an entry level house to Halloween Horror Nights.
Right. And to me that kind of takes away from something else. And that's the only reason I don't get super like, oh my God, yes, this is amazing. Like it's not for you if this is what you like. If this is the only house you're gonna do because you don't like scary houses, then don't go to a scary don't go to a haunted attraction. Yeah. I don't get it. Like I don't like it. It's scary, but I'm gonna go anyways.
Yeah.
There are other things. There are other holidays. Be a Christmas person. You don't need to be a Halloween person if that's the case.
Well,
but whatever. I mean, I digress. Sorry, Nick. Go.
Well, I say let's move to number 8 because this is a trifecta sweep. I also have Goblin's Feast at number 8.
Look at that. See, we do think alike every once in a while.
Look at us.
Yeah. No.
Look at us.
I don't really have to harp on much more. I think it's going to be. I think this will be a riser. I think I'm going to enjoy this house a lot. But again, the whole fantasy element takes it down just from face value because that's all we can judge these houses on at this point. And, the podcast kind of shed a little bit of light on it that makes me lean more into the idea that this is going to be a fun, schlocky, but possibly gory house a little bit. But I think it is going to have that. We're going to have more fun in it than like scare level enjoyment. Like we love Graveyard Games because it was scary. Right. I think we're going to love this house just because it was a good time going through it. I think
it's
this
going to
is
be
gonna have-
lighthearted.
That's a good way
Yeah,
to
I think
put it.
I think it's just going to have a lot of fun. I think we're going to maybe not laugh at, but we'll laugh with the characters throughout this house because
Yeah.
it is just such a ridiculous concept. But so let's move into number 7, Seamus. Number 7.
All right. So my number 7 is Insidious: The Further.
Okay.
I know. Jamie's face says it all. Maybe another hot take from Seamus. Yeah, I mean, of all the IPs outside of Ghostbusters, this is the other one that like I'm intrigued. I'm interested. Being that it's just the further aspect of the movies and not one particular movie. We've said it before. I think this is the one thing that boosts it for me. Because you're focusing on the right things. Like this is what you need to do, because anything else it would be weird and you're just kind of like trying to mimic the movies beat for beat. This allows them to kind of do their own thing within the Insidious lore, which is I think what they needed to do. So this is probably going to be really good. Potentially the scariest house, kind of like how Exorcist ended up being probably the scariest house last year. This one is probably going to be right along that route, as long as they hit it, in the right way and you give us the right, things, the right scare actors, the right scenes, the right beats. This is probably going to be a pretty good house. I fully expect this to climb my rankings by the end. But as of right now, as I've stated before, the only reason it's 7 is because 4, 5, and 6 are just slightly more more attractive to me as of right now.
Yeah. So Jamie, you're number 7.
So I have to verify on my list just to make sure.
Can't be giving out fake house numbers rankings right now.
Number 7 is going to be A Quiet
She got the
Place.
Insidious.
No. You guys
Okay.
kind of figured it was coming. Yeah, like I've mentioned before, when I was honestly the biggest A Quiet Place hater when this first got announced, because I thought it was stupid and just didn't understand why it was happening. But it's kind of grew on me a little bit. I think number 7's a pretty good spot for it. I'm going in with an open mind. I think the ASL aspect of it is going to be pretty cool. I hope it's able to be executed well. Even if not, it's still a cool aspect that we haven't seen interpreted in a house before, which is awesome. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be similar to set designs in the houses we've seen before, as we've also talked about with Descendants and The Last of Us and all that kind of similar junk. So we'll see what I think about it, but it's not actually at the bottom of my list, which I'm surprised, because at the beginning of the season, when we started getting announcements, it definitely was.
Well, you're an IP gal, like you say, so
I
it
am,
can only
I am.
fall so far,
I only got so much to work with.
So let's get into my number 7, and my number 7 is the museum Deadly Exhibits.
Oh, that's low too.
I thought it was going to be higher for you. I did.
Yeah, I thought
I'm
it'd
a
be
little bit low
higher.
on it. I really want that Smithsonian style museum, and from all accounts, as soon as they dropped that folklore museum, it really took a hit for me. Unfortunately, I want a historical museum, creepy at night. Like, I know everybody made the joke you mentioned earlier, the joke of Night at the Museum, but that's what I want, because that can be creepy. Like, you can do that in a creepy way. You can. It doesn't have to be comedy. It doesn't have to be Robin Williams on a horse. It doesn't have to be Dum Dum Want Gum Gum. Like, it can be scary. Like,
Yeah, but dinosaurs don't scare me either.
That doesn't have to be just dinosaurs. All these different dioramas.
That's what I think when I think of
everything.
a museum.
Yeah, well, it's not just dinosaur bones, but still, like, all different creepy exhibits, each room themed to the next thing. Like, the lights go out. It's just, you hear sounds. It can get really weird and creepy. And now when they say this folklore roadside attraction-y thing, all I can think of is just like this little shanty with like a rock and a ball of yarn, and they're like, oh, look at the haunted chair, it creaks every 10 minutes or something. Like, just something
like
stupid
Courage
like
the
that.
Cowardly Dog. Return
Yeah,
the slap or suffer my curse.
Yeah, I pictured that versus what I want, so my expectations are lower because I'm expecting the other version of it. But yeah, I really want to love this house, and I hope it leans a little bit more into the museum aspect that I want. But if it's not, it's kind of falling flat. And I think I'm going against the current right now, because a lot of people do have this pegged as like the darkest deal of the year,
which
and
is
it's like,
crazy.
it's a little early to
What
be
am I
saying that,
missing?
because last year
To be
we weren't
honest, though,
saying
I
that
think,
about darkest deal beforehand.
but that's the thing. I think Darkest Steel really was that. Like, at least for me last year, I was like, where is the hype coming from? Like, I get that it's an interesting story, but that's exactly it. It's an interesting story. How do you make this a house?
Mm-hmm.
And they did. They found a way to make it a house. So I think this is kind of along the same route, maybe slightly different because the museum lends itself more to a haunted attraction, because at least there's something physically there, not just some dude selling his soul to the devil.
Yeah.
But I can see where the comparisons come from.
Yeah. So Seamus, you're number 6.
My number 6, probably a hot take, is Universal Monsters. Whatever the tagline is.
Eternal Bloodlines.
Bloodlines. There you go. No, this is not because they're women. Before anybody fucking attacks me, I just want to put that out there now.
Seamus has always hated the monsters.
Really?
I'm waiting for that one person to be like, "Oh my god, you just don't like it because it's girls." No, it has nothing to do with that. Actually, I think that to me is one of the reasons why I have it at 6, not 10.
Yeah.
Is because I think it's interesting they're doing something different, and they're using Van Helsing, even if it's not the original Van Helsing, it's still a Van Helsing. And I've been saying for a while, why aren't we doing, if we're going to do versus, why aren't we doing Monster versus Van Helsing? Like,
yeah,
that makes
right
sense
there for you. Yeah,
I mean, that's a story, it writes itself. So it's about time they're doing something like that. Why I'm not super hyped on it, especially after last year, because last year I think Unmasked is potentially the best Monster Houses, or actually, you know what? I'll say it. I've said it before.
It's the best Monster House.
It's the best Monster House they've ever done.
Yeah.
It will be very hard to top last year's house. I don't care what anybody says. Sorry, everybody. Legends Collide is not better than Unmasked.
Not a
Legends
chance.
Collide is potentially the worst house they've done Monsters related. I'm sorry. Did I just hurt your feelings? I'm sorry. No. Last year is going to be really hard to top. So I don't expect this house to top last year, for me anyways. But I am willing to see the benefits and see the positives of where it's going and the story and what they're setting it up to be. I think it's pretty interesting. I have not listened to the podcast. So before anybody goes, listen to the podcast, gonna change your opinion. Okay, I will listen to the podcast if it makes y'all happy. The one thing I'm kind of concerned about, I don't understand, is why is Van Helsing teaming up with a monster?
Yeah.
That's not the Van Helsing character.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't team up with monsters. They fight the monsters. That's the whole point of the Van Helsings. He's a monster hunter. His daughter would be a monster hunter. But at the same time, I'm willing to experience it, kind of see how it works. And if it works, then great. Because I love Bride of Frankenstein. I think she's a great character. She's a great contrast to Frankenstein, like the monster himself. And we don't have Dracula. We have someone that's not Dracula, which is wonderful. Thank you. Maybe? So thank you. So I am willing to give this a chance. I hope this house is better than I think it's going to be. Because I was pleasantly surprised last year when I came out of Unmasked and I was like, holy crap, that house was incredible. Yeah.
Yep.
I want to be wowed like that again. So if they pull it off, this is going to climb my rankings. Yeah. If it doesn't, it's probably going to sit kind of right where it is now, mid-pack.
Yeah. So Jamie,
after that diatribe, Jamie, what is your number 6?
Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines.
Oh, let's go. We got a mind meld going on. We know.
Coming from the resident girly here, I'm not hating on my girls either. I'm really not. I think it's awesome that they're finally showcasing more women in horror, and which it has been for
YouTube, this woman.
Look at you. I was gonna say, there she is, right there.
Got my Murder on Main monster shirt on.
The Murder on Main, our buddies. No, but I'm definitely not hating on this house either. It is just tough, just how Seamus said. I feel like I just loved Unmasked so much last year, and my only thing for me that kind of gets me with this house is that it's a story I'm not familiar with, other than the Bride of Frankenstein. It's not really too many characters I'm not familiar with, so I guess I don't have that natural like attachment like how I would do if it was like Creature or something, or Invisible Man, or obviously Dracula. But it is pretty cool that we're getting Dracula's daughter. That's fun. And I mean, it's a little confusing to me. And I feel like maybe I need to listen to the episode as well because I haven't listened to the podcast either. And maybe that'll give me a little bit more insight. But it's just tough because I don't know. It's hard to explain with this one because I wanted to have it a little bit higher. I thought it was going to be at my top 5 originally, but it just kind of has been floating in the middle for me. I'm excited for it, but I'm not super, super hyped up for it, I guess, as I was when we got the announcement for Unmasked last year. And I'm like, oh man. And on the photo, it had Phantom of the Opera and the Invisible Man and Jacqueline Hyde. And I was like, oh, this is going to be cool, like super stacked. And then kind of how that house went through, you would kind of go through, I think in the tour, or we had learned a little bit something that it kind of followed the original Phantom of the Opera movie and how the story was told at the house. So just stuff I was more, I guess, familiar with, that it made it a little more likable for me. But yeah, Eternal Bloodlines is going to be at number 6 for me too.
All right. I think fair points.
Yeah.
So my number 6, this is where I have, other than Monsters, my final IP. I have Insidious the Further at number 6.
Fucking way.
Just
Wow.
outside my top 5.
That's low.
I've learned my lesson with the IP.
I figured this was going to be top 3 for you, easy.
No,
I don't even care if Insidious fucking sucks.
I love Insidious. I love the franchise.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you love this movie. That's why I'm surprised you have it so low.
I've been burned by hyping up my IPs too much, so I would rather be surprised by them. I would rather be surprised than let down.
I blame Stranger Things.
Unfortunately, it is a little bit because of that. That season 4 was teed up so perfectly, and they took a lot of shortcuts, setting wise and storytelling wise, that hurt the house overall. And
I'll say it. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
No, say it. No, jump.
No, I was gonna say I'll say it once and I'll say it again. If we had Hollywood's version of the Stranger Thing house that they had last year, I would have liked it immensely better. I feel like in the previous episodes we had done before that year had begun, when we were talking about the Stranger Things house, what we wanted to see, a lot of those scenes were in the Hollywood house. Like, you had the snowball dance was in there. They had the dance scene. They had a couple other scenes that I know we specifically had talked about. The Creel house. Yeah. And it just, I don't know. It just looked a little bit better to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just hurt.
That's why I worry that they're going to get like, go ahead.
I would say that's a little bit of the bad taste that's in my mouth with the IP.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
The leg up that Insidious has is that this is, I'm not going to say an original take on it, but they're playing within the world of Insidious, and they're not shoehorning and tying themselves to, like what you said, Seamus, a specific chapter or a specific storyline. Right. They can play around with the Further a little bit and kind of do what they want. They can have all of the villains from all the movies there, and it'll make sense. It's not a walkthrough of chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3 to Last Key to Red Door. Yeah, it hopefully is not that, but by the name of it, I have no reason to believe it's going to be that way. So number 6, just outside my top 5. I think that's a fair place for right now, and I hope that it rises. I do think this will be the scariest house. I'm very excited for this house. I don't want to be let down, especially by a property and franchise that I do adore, and I really do like this a lot. So I don't want to be hurt again. So Seamus, kick us off. Top 5. We're in our top 5s now.
Yeah, so my top 5 has actually switched a little bit. Like I've been struggling with my top 5 the last week or so. So as of right now, my number 5 is Major Suites.
Okay.
This was higher to begin with, and it has fallen a few spots because, having nothing to do with the theme, I thought that Scare Zone was great. One of my favorite Scare Zones of all time, at least for the ones that I've been going to. But I'm worried about the location. And the more I've talked to people, it's made me more worried about the location. I think this house is going to suffer somewhat because it's in Fast and the Furious. Now, that's not saying we know for a fact that it's going to be the same layout. There have been talks or rumors that it's not the same layout. It may not even encompass that split, but we don't know for sure. And going off of what we've seen the last couple of years, I have to assume that the split will be there.
Yeah.
And that worries me because I don't know how you're going to be able to do a continuous story and it not feel cheap or kind of like Because because like Chucky last year, it was kind of like that factory setting for a little bit, and I feel like that house was kind of disjointed. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. It was just a lot of, hey, look, Chucky, Chucky, Chucky. And I'm hoping that they find a way to make this work in the location that it's in. Because I think that if this house suffers at all, that's the reason it's going to suffer. Otherwise, it's going to be great. I think that this theme lends itself to a house so well. And I want to know more about Major Sweets and his maniacal, thoughts and how he creates candy that makes these kids killer, psychotic little demon children. And I hate scary children because scary children give me the willies, and they always find scare actors that are like 2 feet tall and they're fucking scary as fuck. So I'm excited for this house in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I'm so nervous that it's not going to be what I think it's going to be, or it's just not going to be, it's just not going to be that house.
Yeah. Like you mentioned with that little break period, right? Like that eats up a lot of the real estate right in the middle of the house. So like you have the exit, essentially, like not the full exit, but once you're getting towards that courtyard, you have kind of that exit hallway into the courtyard, which is kind of a down, and then you have like another intro to the house. So like there's 3 segments of the house that are kind of just washed away into nothingness, and it definitely breaks up the continuation of the house itself. So it's tough. That's a tricky part to pull off. But so Amy, you're number 5.
Seamus, I think you might have taken a peek at my hype list, because my number 5 is also going to be Major Sweets.
Wow, is that 3 in a row?
Trendsetter, man. I am a trendsetter.
Topped it out, rounded it out. My top 5, the old Major Sweets himself. So I think Seamus basically gave my statement of what I was going to say as well. I'm just kind of worried because I am very excited for this. Like Seamus said as well, I love the scare zone. I think it was great. I love seeing all the different little characters. Hopefully we see the little black cat or the little funny robot in the house. That'd be really cool.
Stupid robot.
I'm just hoping it's still going to be as bright and as fun and as colorful as I'm hoping as the scare zone was, versus that candy factory kind of drab setting, which is kind of what I'm picturing.
It's a solid point.
And same thing with that Fast and the Furious setting cue and everything itself. I feel like it is very industrial. So I guess it does go with that like candy factory theme. But I just hope it still has that pizzazz to it that I'm hoping for. So, but it still made my top 5 for sure.
All right. Well, my number 5 to start my top 5 is going to be Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. I'm not that far off from Seamus, but it did crack the top 5. It's smack dab in the middle. The monster houses have definitely surprised me more often than not, whether they've gone from, with Collide, the storyline was, pretty shaky, but I think I had it lower originally and it did rise just a little bit. Unmasked, I was kind of unsure about as well. I love those characters, but I don't remember where I had it last year. But this storyline is interesting. The rumored setting is something I could really get behind. And to Seamus's points that he made, it is interesting to have Van Helsing teaming up with a monster to go against other monsters. So I'm cautious about this one as well, because I don't want to fall into another Legends Collide scenario where this is an amazing storyline. This would make an amazing movie, but it doesn't necessarily translate into an amazing house, because are you going to get every piece of information from that story in this house by just visually walking through a haunted house? It's tough to pull off. So I'm curious to see how the teams, I guess, come to be. How does Bride team up with Van Helsing? How does the Countess summon or, influence the She-Wolf and the Anaxinamu? Like how do these 5 completely different beings mesh symbiotically into one storyline that we can tell? So time will tell. It's right in the middle. Monsters for me is coming on a high, so I'm hoping it can keep riding that train. But yeah, that's where it's at. I don't think that's a bad spot, especially for my list on a Monsters house. But Seamus, you're number 4.
We are getting to the end. So my number 4 is the last IP in my list, A Quiet Place.
Ooh, that did creep up there. I forgot you hadn't mentioned it yet.
I think we've out of the three of us, I think we've kind of, the more we've talked, I think we all kind of knew that I was going to be somewhat like high on this one because I think that it is different. It is unique. And I commend Universal for trying something different. I know that it's post-apocalyptic. We've seen it before. The Last of Us just happened. How much can we milk from this setting? But with that said, I think there's enough in this movie or in these two movies where they can actually try some different things. I think that they need to do something that isn't just, scenes from the movie without trying to do other scare elements. So I hope they play with the sound, like you guys said already, that, they bring in how to deaden the noise or make it so that when you're walking through certain areas, it gets really quiet and then you hear like a blood curdling scream or the sound of the monster or whatever. And it kind of breaks the silence. And that type of stuff to me is more than just a cheap scare. Plus, I think there are unique scenes in the movies that they can kind of build set transitions or scene transitions with. Like Nick and I were talking about when we did the Guess the House episode. Jamie wasn't on it with us, but one of the things I want to see is a scene where we're walking and you see the sand. You're walking along on the sand with the tree setting and make it feel like you're outside, like they did with Dragons last year, or they've done with other houses where they put the tree elements and it feels like you're out in a courtyard or you're out in a yard somewhere. I want to see those types of things. Like Nick said, it'd be great to see a kid get fucking like football tackled by a monster. I don't know. In all seriousness, I think I could be completely wrong. This house may not be good at all. It may be weak. It may come out and just they miss on everything. But I have a hard time believing they're going to. I think that this was obviously announced early, so they had this one already ready to go. I think they're excited about this. They're excited to try some new things, experiment a little bit. And give us a different, unique experience that we haven't had before. So that's why I'm kind of excited to see what they do with it. So maybe it's a little high. I don't know, but I don't know. There's something about it that
time will tell. So Jamie, you're number 4.
So at my number 4, I have an original. I have Slaughter Cinema 2. At my number 4 spot.
Nick's eyes.
Nick is like confusing me this whole episode because he's acting shocked like number 4 is like a low spot out of 10.
I mean,
for Slaughter, sure. Okay.
I never did the first one.
I never did the first one, so that intrigue is
I didn't get to do that one, unfortunately. But I still am very intrigued by it. I think I'm a little salty that I saw some of the spoilers, but I honestly already forgot what they were, so I'm really not that upset about it. But I don't know. I feel like my top 3 is just really stacked up, man. So I feel like Slaughter just almost eased its way in there, but I feel like the other 3 I have just kind of edged it out a little bit. But I am very excited for this. I feel like it's probably going to go up on my list possibly as the season goes on. I'm not sure as high as long as these other houses maybe live up to their expectations that I have, but we'll see about that too. But yeah, I feel like for me, it's just that because I don't have that connection to the original as I wish I did, my silly self that did not go through that house that year because I didn't go very many times that year. I think it was only once or twice, but I am looking forward to seeing it and seeing what all the hype is about, literally.
I mean, I'm so shocked because coming from somebody who is self-proclaimed loves shitty horror movies.
B-grade horror enthusiast, I know.
Bad.
You make the most use of Shudder. That's why I'm surprised like this isn't higher.
I do. I love Shudder. And it's in my bio description for Macabre Daily. I love the movies you hate. B-grade horror movie lover enthusiast. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's going to go up for me depending how these other houses do. So we'll see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.
Don't want to get my hopes up too high, as you would say, Nick.
Okay. All right. Fair. Throw it back at me. My number 4 is going to be The Triplets of Terror. I'm very excited about this house. God. It's so shocking. I know.
I had it at 9. What are we talking about?
Right. It is pretty shocking for me for someone that completely dunks on the hellbilly horror. It's not really my thing. I hate the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. I don't mind Rob Zombie's movies like House of Thousand Corpses, the whole Firefly trilogy. I do enjoy that because that's what that is, but don't put that onto Halloween. I digress. It's just I don't often find myself going towards those movies, but for this, I'm just so interested with it's honestly the birthday celebration part that like boosts it up even more for me because I think it's just I think it's going to be wacky and gory, and these characters are so weird looking. Like I'm excited. I hope it's not like what Seamus was saying. I hope it's not Texas Chainsaw knockoff kind of style stuff. I think there'll be aspects of that, but I think it's going to be different enough. It's the triplets, the birthday. I view it almost like they're competing against one another to who can, get the highest score essentially. Who can have the ultimate kill count. Oh, did I go there? It's just, I think I'm very intrigued. I do recognize the downside putting it at number 4. I do think it has the ability to drop the most out of anything in this top 5 because the other ones I don't think are going to move that much. If I had to say what's going to move the most in my list, I'd say triplets probably could move down the most, and museum could probably move up the most. If I had to look at originals, just by where I put them right now on this day. But yeah, I really am excited about this. I've heard nothing but good things about this. I have stayed away from spoilers. I have not been spoiled. I'm riding that high into this event. And now that all these episodes are pretty much out there, I can get off social media. But number 4, Triplets of Terror. I think that's a good spot for right now. So Seamus, top 3. We're in the big 3 now.
We're at top 3. So my number 3, obviously all of them are original ideas, which shouldn't surprise anyone. But my number 3 is the museum.
Okay.
I have stayed away from any and all spoilers. I have no idea what people are saying about this. I don't know what it looks like. I know people have seen pictures of it, and everyone's talking about how it's not what they thought it was going to be. But I am solidly in the camp that this is going to be like Puppet Theater. It's going to be like Darkest Deal, where I have no idea what I'm getting into. I have an idea about what it's going to be, but it may completely blow those expectations clear out the window. And I totally expect this house to vie for one of the best houses this season, personally and potentially as House of the Year. I really do. I think this house has the chance to be that good.
Wow, high praises from museum.
And people that have seen things about it because they don't mind getting spoiled or they want to see all this shit before it happens. Like, I think you're a weirdo if you do, but whatever. I mean, I'm an idiot, so don't take my opinion to mean anything.
I'm an idiot. You're an idiot.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I don't understand spoiling. I just don't understand actively spoiling things for yourself. But whatever. I digress. I know that it sounds like it's not what everyone thought it was going to be, but I think that it benefits it a little bit. I think it not being like Night at the Museum is what will help it, because everyone was worried that that's what it was going to be like, but they're going to try to take it in a different direction and kind of, I think the idea of potentially it being like, Jim Bob O'Toole dug up some death rock and didn't know what it was and unleashed like demons upon the earth. Like, that to me is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
It's more interesting than, Jim, Jillian, and Mary Jane killing people for sport. Like, that is just more exciting than to me. But this is why our lists are so wildly different.
Yeah. And you are the nut. You are the history buff.
Yeah. I'm also, we know that with movies too. Like, we're that way with movies. Like, I like the weird, esoteric, fucked up shit, and you like the goofy, balls to the wall fucked up shit. So
yeah. So Jamie, number 3, what is in your top 3? What do we got here? What are we cooking with?
So my number 3 is going to be Triplets of Terror.
Okay, Shocker. So not far off.
I kind of thought that'd be 1.
Shocker.
Yeah.
No. Had to save the 1 for something special. A little something. So with this one, I feel like I don't have to go too much into. I feel like a lot of you listening, if you are listening, know that I enjoy the theming of what this house is going for. Redneck horror, as Nick would call it, hillbilly horror, my favorite kind of stuff. I don't really think it's going to be as much of Texas Chainsaw as I think it's going to be leaning more towards House of Thousand Corpses-esque, I guess, in that sense, kind of with the gory aspect of it, the weird twisted aspect to it, but still kind of has that comedic relief. I still think we might get a little bit of that somehow as well. I originally did think I was going to have this higher too, but I don't know. I'm kind of worried that I have my hopes a little bit too high and I'm going to be disappointed by it. But like you said, Nick, too, I have heard good things about this house from others who have seen the little spoilers that I have luckily not seen yet. But I'm very much looking forward to this house. So I can't wait to do it on today, opening night. It's today, right?
No,
Yeah, I was going to
it's
say
right.
this.
Technically, when this episode comes out, it's tonight.
Hey.
When this episode comes out, it's today, baby.
So, my number 3, and I'm the first one to mention this house, Monstros, the monsters of Latin America. It crept up into number 3.
It's a good one.
I
Good spot.
still have not watched the Hollywood walkthrough. I will watch that probably
my gosh.
after I go through the house, because I don't want to see, I've seen in research, even before this house was announced, I've seen pictures and research this house plenty of times, and I think viewing Hollywood's is okay enough where I'm not completely spoiled. I more just kind of have a feel for what it is. But I don't want to watch the full walkthrough yet until we go through ours. But this is exciting. This is another step in the world of that cryptidy style vibe, a la Chupacabras and Yeti houses, which always typically end up high on my list because it's just a whole immersive world. You step into it and you're like, I'm no longer in the theme park, even though it's 1 billion degrees out. I am, in whatever, Seattle, I'm in Washington State Park with the Yetis, or I'm in, wherever Chupacabras was, Mexico or Latin America or something like that. You immediately were immersed into that culture. And I'm really looking forward to this because not only is it that culture, but it is like the be all end all monsters in that realm. These are the boogeymen of those worlds. And that's something that I really am intrigued by, and I want to research more into these monsters. I probably should have researched more into them previously because, time's a ticking, but I'm going to go in at the level that I'm at and see what we got. I mean, it was House of the Year for Hollywood. I have very high expectations because, it's just, this is the first, I could be wrong, but this is like one of the few, if not the first house to go from West Coast to East Coast. So I'm excited to see. Maybe something back in the day happened, but for me, this will be the first time at least I see with my own eyes a West Coast to East Coast representation. Besides House of Thousand Corpses or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, but that's an IP, so I guess that's a little different. But
yeah, so like that's going to do what it does. But Monstros, Latin America, number 3. So Seamus, you're number 2.
I'm going to follow your lead, good buddy. My number 2 is Monstros.
Okay.
This house is going to be incredible. I will go on a limb and say tonight I'm going to be walking out of that house going, holy crap, that was awesome. Everybody says every year, man, I wish they would do some just different stuff. Like it's always the same 7 horror characters, it's the same milked franchises that we see all the time. Well, guess what? We're actually getting something different, like actually different, like characters you've never heard of before. Maybe you have, I don't know, maybe you're just one of those people that are super traveled. Good for you. But for most of us, this is like something that's new. And I love new, unknown monsters and cryptids and all these different folklore tales, whatever you want to call them. I think it's great that we're finally getting something that's different and new and unique. And everything we've seen, these monsters look messed up, awesome, scary. Like, this house is going to be everything to everyone. It's going to be scary. It's going to be intriguing. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be colorful. It's going to be engulfing. It's going to suck you right into this world. And Yeah, I think this house is going to be crazy. It's going to be incredible, and I think that it takes quite a lot for them to bring a house from LA to Orlando. I think typically you're right. I think Orlando is kind of their testing ground in a lot of ways. That's why it's usually Orlando to LA, which is why I'm worried they're going to get a better weekend house than we got. But whatever.
Oh, for sure.
But I think that it's a testament to how good this house was on the West Coast and how well it was received and how well it was talked up. I think this house is going to be crazy good. Little unfortunate for those that went to LA and saw it last year, because I think it's going to be roughly the same thing. But I'm okay with that because I didn't get to see it. So yeah, I'm excited for this house. I can't wait to do it. And I think this one I'm probably going to do the most and be super happy with it. Even though it's not my number one hyped house, I think this house will be my number one ranked at the end of the year. Calling it now.
So Jamie, you're number 2.
So my number 2, gonna play copycat with you guys, is gonna be Monsters of Latin America. Gotta follow the suit. I'm glad
you're
we're all.
Seamus. I have it at my number 3. I haven't announced my number 2 yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Well, you had said it previously when we were talking it, so kind of in the same train. But yeah, I mean, Seamus, you pretty much said it all, and Nick, you said it all. What you said too. I feel like, I'm not trying to say this to be a hater or nothing, but kind of glad we're getting a different cryptid other than the damn Yeti. I'm getting kind of tired of the homie. It is nice seeing him. It's pretty fun to see the different iterations of him, but he does need a break. Exactly. It's got to be hibernation or something for him. But yeah, I'm glad we're finally seeing some other cryptids and creatures that we normally don't get to see, and that personally we're not too familiar with, because just cultural wise, I love learning about other people's, kind of like the Japanese cryptids that we were thinking we were going to get last year. We're going to have as a house, just something new and something different that we haven't seen before. And I feel like that draw always does it for me. And also that it was in Hollywood. And I think it's really fun that we finally get to have something coming from over there, coming to over here, bringing a little piece of California to give me, so I don't have to go all the way over there. And like you'd mentioned, Nick, this did get House of the Year over there, so I think it's going to be received really well here also. But I am curious as to if it's going to be identical to the house there, or if they're going to switch it up a little bit here. I would assume they would switch it up a little bit here, just with the spacing and design.
I'm sure there will be.
Yeah,
they did ship a few things from the LA house to Orlando, so we're getting some stuff from it. But I'm sure the maze won't be entirely the same. It won't be completely carbon copy.
I'm really looking forward to it, though. I feel like it's one of those houses that you're going to walk in and be like, wow, like,
yeah, I
this
agree.
Is cool.
I think
like,
this house could be,
these monsters are sick.
Set dressing wise, this could be potentially one of the best they've ever done.
Yeah,
I know that's all. I know that's not small praise, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. But I think this one, people are going to be like, "Holy crap!" Like they outdid themselves.
Yeah,
and again, a down year where nothing is super crazy super high up there as far as at least IPs are concerned. Like, I think they have to go all out on their originals, and they have to be good. They have to be good this year.
Yeah, I agree. So my number 2, Major Sweets Candy Factory.
Wow, number 2.
I love this evil Willy
Wonka thing.
Waddling around Wario fat fuck. Like, I love it. I want him to like just blow everybody's expectations out of water, break that Fast and the Furious curse. Like,
Nick's gonna cosplay as Mr. Sweets or Major Sweets.
Right. I will probably look like him.
Mustache.
Yeah, I'll look like him by the end of the event for sure. You know what? I got the beard. I'll do the I'll trim down. I'll trim the beard off and get the little handlebar mustache. I can rock that for the event.
Oh man.
No, Jamie does not want that. I am excited for this. I loved the Scare Zone. Like we mentioned, since we've gone through the Scare Zone, we have mentioned time and time again, this would fit perfectly as a house. Just setting it in his candy factory and turning it into a horrific Willy Wonka. You know, the only, and I say this at a number 2 spot, but the only downfall is, I think it will be able to work with Fast and the Furious, but I just really wanted to see the large scale of the factory in a sound stage. Yeah. I thought walking into this giant building with the steam pumping out of it, and you just hear machines whirling and stuff like that would have been something. But I'm gonna trust that they put it there for a specific reason. So going in blind, I'm going to put my chips on the table and have faith that luck is going to draw me a winner. And I'm ready for Major Sweets with Lady Luck. But I'm ready for this. I really am excited for this. I love when we see scare zones turned into houses. I really do. It's so fun to see them evolve. Yeah, Dead Man's Wharf to Dead Man's Pier. I love that. It's such a nice call up. It's almost like seeing your friend get promoted at work. You're like, good job, buddy. Good job. You
nice
did it.
job.
But yeah, I'm just excited.
Unless he's your boss
really
now, then you're not as like excited for him. But
yeah, no, not so much. So let's get into the top spots. Number one, Seamus, your number one most hyped house for Halloween Horror Nights 33
is Slaughter Cinema 2. It is my number one hyped house. I think it was pretty close between this and Monstrous. I think I could argue that Monstrous should be number one. This should be 2 for me, but unfortunately, I guess for Monstrous is that I look at Cinema 2 as the true 5th IP house as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. I know they're not actual IPs, but it's the closest thing we have to that B slasher house or those goofy horror movie houses that, like a Killer Clowns, for example, that like you didn't think it would work, but it's just so good. Like this is going to be that. I never got to do the first one. I think it was 2018. We had just moved to Florida, so it was just trying to be a one-income household. It was kind of hard to make it work, but I'm bummed I didn't go that year because I this is definitely right up my alley. Like I live for horror movies. I live for Halloween, and this is just going to be that like callback to, I remember going to drive-ins as a kid, going to movies as a kid, walking into those single screen movie theaters. I know some of you listening are like, what? Wait, movie theaters were one screen? Movie theaters used to be one screen, and they still exist, but not as much as they used to. So I remember walking in, you walk in the lobby, you've got the concession stand to the side. It smells like popcorn. You hear the "Let's all go to the lobby." You hear that playing, and it's just there's something about remembering those times of, because the movie theater experience is not the same as it used to be. I don't care what anybody says. Like it's still fun, but it's just not the same thing. So it's different, and this is gonna bring me back to that time when I was like a 7-year-old kid sitting up on the back of a pickup truck or in a movie theater and just watching whatever they're playing that night. Cause like, that's the one showing. Like what are they showing for this week? And this is just going to bring me back to that. And I don't know. This is just something that it reaches me. It's near to my heart. So I'm super pumped for this. I think this, like I said, this and Monstrous are kind of like 1A, 1B, but it had to be 1 and 2. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I can't imagine this falls very far at all. Like I could see this finishing 1-2 with Monstrous. I could see Monstrous Slaughter. It could go either way, but yeah, I think this house is going to be just chef's kiss.
Yep. We'll get to it. Jamie, you're number one.
My number one.
I know what it is.
You love it. I love it. Insidious the Further.
It's high.
It's high. It's really fucking high. And I'm you just
it's okay. No, hey,
you just can't tell me. No one can tell me. Fuck the haters. Excuse my language. No one can tell me that this house is not going to be a good house. I don't care if I'm having my hopes up too high for it, like Nick did with Stranger Things last year. You can't fuck it up. That's the thing. You just can't mess this up. There's just too many characters you could use. The Further's going to be sick. There's many different options you could use. We're kind of going in blind. We don't know what it's going to be, which is even cooler, but you kind of know a gist of what you're going to get with Insidious. You're going to have a banging soundtrack in the house. The music's going to be fire. I know that for a fact. The sounds are going to be scary alone as it is. The character design, I'm interested to see who they do pick to go in the house. Hopefully the Man Who Can't Breathe. Love him. Big fan. Real creepy. Think it'll be cool if they have maybe like a room in the Further where they have like, I think you gotta have all of them too, but there is a lot of them though. Obviously you're gonna have the woman in black, you're gonna have the Man Who Can't Breathe, the key face. Keyface, I think, is the only one we might not see because I feel like that character design would be
don't
very
say
hard to
that.
replicate.
I love
I
that
feel like
one.
it'd be
Nick's
really.
gonna
I
be
know
pissed.
it is
Love
cool,
him.
but I feel like it'd be very hard to replicate that. That's the only thing. But I just feel like there's so much in store for us, and I'm just so eager to see what it is, and I'm just so excited. And I do
If
hope
you
it
have the
lives up
ball-
to my expectations. I think it will. So
If you have the balls to put a 5'7" Vecna in Stranger Things 4, you can fucking put a Keyface into the Insidious
Yeah.
house. Just
that's true.
figure
That's
it
true, I
out.
guess.
I love the Insidious franchise. We talked about it with Jordana this week, and it's just
Mhm.
it is a I don't
And
know.
that got me even more excited for it too. Like when we said, sorry to interrupt you, Nick. Like we said it with Jordana too. I feel like Insidious was kind of like that peak, like into like new age horror, like back then for that time, like 2011, 2012, when stuff like that was first coming out. So
Yeah, like if you're
Yeah.
in love with like the Blumhouse movies or The Conjuring, like you can thank Insidious for
James Wan, Lee
making
Whannell, y'all are my fucking dogs.
making it a profitable movie genre again.
Mhm.
Like they found out
Yeah.
they cracked the code essentially.
Yeah.
They defined an era in horror,
Mhm.
kind of like slashers defined the 80s. You know, James Wan, Lee Whannell, that whole graduating class of horror directors kind of defined the mid 2000s into the 2010s, early 2010s. I mean, they're the reason we have a lot of that same stuff. Like Blumhouse exists because of those guys. In all reality, A24 to a point exists because of those guys.
Yeah.
Because they
Saw.
established, hey, we can create solid horror movies with earned jump scares and it not be just a bunch of, cheap bullshit.
Yep.
And that's what horror had gotten to. It was like it had gotten cheap. They said, "Hold on, we can do this, but we can earn it." And they did. And I think Insidious is the peak of that. Like Insidious 1 is truly a scary movie. That movie
It is.
is very frightening. And even like for me, who's not a jump scare guy, like if I can see it coming a mile away, I don't care about it. But that movie in particular
Gets me
did a
every time.
great job of still getting me, even if you know it's coming.
Exactly.
Because that's how effective it is.
Nick always makes
So
fun of me.
Well, I mean, but it's true, and you're right. If the house follows those same beats and it does it the right way, this house will potentially be the scariest house this season. So I agree with you. I wouldn't put it at 1, but that's just because I'm not that high on IP houses. You, on the other hand, are more of an IP person. There's a reason why you have it ranked so high. And I think a lot of people think like you. I think a lot of people are on your side here.
Nah, I don't think so.
No, I think
With,
so.
Maybe
I
not
think a
this
lot-
year,
with what
but-
I've been seeing with people, I think a lot of people are here for the originals this
Again,
year.
I think this is I don't like using this word. I've said it before, but like the normie,
No, I know
the
what you mean though.
normies, I think for the most part are super like on board with it. Like they're ready to do it. Obviously, the people we talk to, like the crowds we roll with,
who know the
we're
lore
obviously
behind
like,
everything and
they're all
whatnot.
monsters fans. Like they all hate me because I don't put monsters at 1. So like, because they're all monsters fans. So I get it. I totally get it. I get
Everyone's
it. I get
got
why
their
it's so
everyone's
so
got their
big. So-
lane, you know.
So I hope you're right. I really do hope that they pull a lot of the different elements from all of the movies and don't try to stick too much with one or the other.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
mannequin scene in particular is the one I'm really hoping from the first movie when Josh is in the further and it's like, well, they're not mannequins, they're the ghosts, the undead or whatever, but they're like posed as the mannequins in the living
Yeah.
room and it's like the old like 50s style and then like they come back and like she has the shotgun. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. But yeah, Insidious takes my number 1 spot. Nick, you're up. Let's hear it.
Slaughter Cinema 2. It's gotta be. It just has to be. I just love that vibe, man. We made a t-shirt for it. Like, I love the movies. The movies have always been my like safe haven. It's always my escape from reality. Whenever, I love it. I love that lobby feel. I love that vintage throwback feel of like being a kid at the fucking movie theater and like seeing these ridiculous movies come to life. It's just such a fun thing. And I love that Slaughter Cinema is essentially a launching pad for future house ideas and future characters, because that's how we got Yeti. It's how we're going to get the next Yeti. Something from this house in the next 5 years will be a standalone house for sure.
Yeah, probably.
As long we've been asking for it for years, and we finally got it. That was like me with Dead Man's. Like, I remember the excitement when we were like, we should talk about Dead Man. This has got to be a house. And then that spec map came out and it said like Pier or Wharf or whatever. It's like, oh, thank God. The community as a whole has been asking for a Slaughter Cinema sequel since 28. And we finally are getting it at 33. They've waited. They've bided their time. I'm sure they've been working on amazing ideas. And I understand the not the skepticism, but maybe the skepticism is a good word. The whole holding on to fear that maybe this will fall a little bit and not live up to the hype. I'd say that's fair, but I just have faith that they wouldn't touch one of their golden child houses for no reason. I don't think they would do it just to do it. If they were going to do it just to do it, they would have done it at 29, I think. And they would have just been like, hey, that worked. We're going to do it again immediately. I think that they do take ownership over some of these properties. And they're like, look, like, we will do it if the right stories come around. And that's it. Like, we're not going to just do it to do it. So that's why I have faith that this will be done correctly. So that's why it is at number 1 for me. So before we sign off, let's quickly, like we did with the scare zones, go around the horn real quick. 10 to 1. So Seamus, give us your hype list for your
Alrighty.
For HHN33.
So excited, everybody. I hope everyone's excited as we are. But my house list at 10 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, 9 Triplets of Terror, 8 Goblin's Feast, 7 Insidious the Further, 6 Universal Monsters, 5 Major Suites, 4 A Quiet Place, 3 Museum, 2 Monstros, and 1 Slaughter Cinema 2.
All right. Nick, you want to go or you want me to go next?
No, keep this
keeping the same
rotation going.
Rotation. All right. So my top 10 hype list houses. 10 is going to be Museum Deadly Exhibits. Number 9 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. 8 is Goblin's Feast. 7 is A Quiet Place. 6 is Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. 5 Major Sweets Candy Factory. 4 Slaughter Cinema 2. 3 Triplets of Terror. 2 Monsters of Latin America. And 1 Insidious the Further.
All right. And to follow that up, I have number 10, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. 9, A Quiet Place. 8, Goblin's Feast. 7, The Museum Deadly Exhibits. 6, Insidious the Further. 5, Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. 4, Triplets of Terror. 3, Monsters of Latin America. 2, Major Sweets Candy Factory. And number 1, Slaughter Cinema 2. Well, that is it. We have finished our hype list. We have completed our 1 week until HHN Podathon.
Our off season's finally over again. We made it, everybody.
We are finally here and in the fog again. Man, this 1 week till HHN Podathon is a lot of work. This is more so than last year.
Of hate. I mean, love.
Yeah. This is more so than last year. Last year we had a couple episodes that are a little bit shorter. This year we didn't put out anything under an hour and 15. This is almost a 2-hour episode. So if you have followed along for that whole week, I truly hope this helped. I hope this made your week go a little bit faster. We've said it 100 times, but we'll keep saying it 100 more because thank you for following along. Thank you so much. It means a lot. It's really bizarre to me that people are online like thanking us for doing this. Like, it just feels weird that they're thanking us. And it's like, that just goes to show how amazing our Fear and Beer family is, that they're like looking forward to this and this helps them get through it. So like,
I know everyone's so nice.
It's crazy. It blows my mind and it makes me so happy. Yeah. Shout out to the haters. Love y'all too.
Stop being so nice. Hate us every once in a while, please.
Yeah, I'll fire back at you. I don't care.
Clearly, I'm kidding. I hope.
But seriously, I can't wait to see you guys all in the fog. We will be there all of opening weekend. So if you are in town and you are at the park for opening weekend, I try to stay up to date on just Instagram. Like if you're at the park or whatever and you don't see us, just follow us on Instagram. I'll probably be updating stories as to where we're at. And if you see us, come say hello. We're going to have little goodie bags to hand out. We can't really hide them in the parks anymore, but we'll have some stuff on us for everybody. So please, if you see us and you want to come say hi, please do so. Do not feel like we're just fucking people, man. We're not, this is not like,
it's just like
anything crazy.
It's just funny because it's like, we don't care. Obviously it's fun when like people come up and talk to us. I think it's awesome. And I always get nervous too, but it's like, it's just so funny too. Like me thinking of like other like YouTubers, like I'm a fan of, and like I watch, like I'd be so nervous to like be like, hey, what's up? Really like you guys. So like you guys yeah, I think it's really nice when you guys do, because I get nervous with stuff like that anyways.
Yeah. So like I said, please feel free. It makes our day probably more than it makes your day. So absolutely come find us. We have no express. So shit, if you're poor like us, you can run some houses.
We'll be in line like you guys.
We got the old stay and scream.
We're a pod of the people. But yeah, any final thoughts before we sign off from everybody else?
No, just excited. And T-minus 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever the hell it is at this point. But I'm ready to go. I'm raring to go.
Yeah.
I want to have a pumpkin beer with you guys.
Opening night. Well, my opening night's going to be a little different. I haven't really announced it on the pod yet, but wish we'd have got in for the podcast. But I will be doing media night for opening night for the website Macabre that I write for, which is very exciting as well. So I don't know how that's going to work because I've never done a media night before, but I still hope after my little shindig is done that I could hang out with Nick and Seamus, because that's my favorite part of opening night, is getting to hang out with them and spend time with them.
Yeah, we're still kind of figuring out that world. I don't know if Jamie will be able to.
That's my
put
thing
the media night on our story or anything like that.
But if not, you guys could follow me on my Instagram, because I'll be able to post it from there to be able to tag to post it on the other.
And I'll share it.
Page that I'm a part. I know, right? Yeah, that I'm a part of for writing. Yeah. I just don't want to get in trouble first time around. You know the dealio, guys.
Yeah, so we'll figure that aspect out of it. But if I know everybody only wants to meet Jamie. I get it. So if you don't want to say hi until Saturday or Sunday when she's with us normies, when she's with the people that don't get media night, we're not.
Wow, that's crazy.
They don't want Nick and Seamus.
Literally, everyone's going to be there, super professional recording, and I'm going to be there taking notes in my little journal for my article that I'm going to have to write up. That's going to take me like 4 hours.
But yeah,
I'm excited.
Regardless of media night or not, we'll be there the entire weekend.
Yes.
Like you said, I have no idea how the media night runs. I don't know if it's like accelerated.
I still don't know how I fucking got it.
If you're done, well, I just don't know how it's run. Like, I don't know if you're done at 10 and you just get to like free reign the park or whatever.
Oh, I'm not sure either. I know. I've been trying to watch some videos on YouTube, but it seems like it's just like an RIP tour. So I think it's done at a certain time, I would assume.
Exactly. I would assume you would do everything quicker. I don't think they want to keep those people from, if they invite you in at say 4, they don't want to be like, hey, you're here until 2 a.m. Like, no, that's not the point. The point is to get them in, get them out, and let them do their thing. So we'll figure that all out as it comes. Well, by it comes, it's going to be this day that you're here. So
it's today. Hopefully I know what I'm doing.
So we'll figure that all out.
Future
as
you
we get
should
along.
know what she's doing.
Future Jamie will know what's going on. But, wow. The end of the 1 week. Great. Love it. Was a blast. Can't wait to do it next year and completely regret my decisions again.
We can sleep again.
We can finally sleep. Well,
we can sleep.
Until next time, which will probably be our immediate reactions. This is Nick.
And this is Seamus.
And this is Jamie. Happy opening night.
Happy goddamn
See
horror night.
In the fucking fog. Let's go.
It's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare. And again, I would just like to thank Vampire Stepdad for letting us use his music for our intro and outro music. So if you would, just go check him out. Spotify, Facebook. Again, that is Vampire Stepdad.